Mafia boss Tommy Lucchese had a brother named Joseph who served as a captain in his crime family. Let's check it out. I'm James Gladwish and welcome to OC Shorts, bringing you detailed historical snapshots of the American Mafia and other organised crime. Feel free to subscribe if you like that sort of thing. Today, we're going to take a quick look at a few interesting pieces of information on Joseph Joe Brown Lucchese. Gagliano Tommy Brown Lucchese will always be remembered as the powerful mob boss of the crime family that still bears his name. But his brother, Joseph Joe Brown Lucchese, is rarely discussed, despite serving as a respected captain for many years in the Lucchese crime family. Giuseppe Joseph Lucchese was born in Palermo, Sicily on the 13th of April 1910, just over 10 years after his more famous brother Tommy, who was born in December 1899. Along with Tommy, Joseph Lucchese had two other brothers, one named Anthony and another called Vincent, but was known as Jimmy. They also had two sisters, Beatrice and Rose, and their parents were Baldassare and Francesca. On the 22nd of November 1911, the Luccheses moved to the United States from Sicily. While Joseph Lucchese was growing up, his brother Tommy was rising up the ranks of the underworld, and by the end of the so-called Castellammarese War, Tommy Lucchese was the underboss to crime boss Tommy Gagliano. In the early 1950s, Tommy Lucchese would become boss of the crime family that still bears his name after Tommy Gagliano passed away from natural causes. It is unclear when exactly Joseph Lucchese was formally inducted into what we now call the Lucchese crime family, but various informants have stated that Joseph Lucchese headed up gambling operations for his brother Tommy. As his FBI file states, subject is brother of Thomas Lucchese and reportedly runs gambling operations in Queens, New York for him. Another informant would further expand on Joseph Lucchese's criminal activities and state that Joe Brown also handled shylocking for his brother Tommy. The FBI file states, redacted name New York advised SA redacted name on March 14, 1961 that he had a long acquaintanceship with the subject and his brother Thomas Lucchese, and that the subject is very active in Queens, handling policy, bookmaking and shylocking, redacted information, for his brother Thomas Lucchese. Despite a lengthy career in organised crime, an FBI file from 1964 stated that Joseph Lucchese had no criminal record. His FBI file reads, the Identification Division of the Federal Bureau of Investigation advised on November 1, 1962, that no identification record could be located on the subject, Joseph Lucchese. The files of the Identification New York City Police Department, as caused to be checked by SA redacted name on March 15, 1963, failed to reflect any record on this subject. At some point, potentially in the 1950s, Joe Brown Lucchese became a captain in his brother's crime family. This is demonstrated in their organisational chart from the 1963 Valachi hearings. But this is also supported by information provided by numerous informants. As one FBI file states, NYT9 advised on January 11, 1963, that Joseph Lucchese is a caporegime or captain in the Thomas Lucchese family. Informant stated he was not positive, but he thought that Joseph Laratro, also known as Joe Narrows, was also a captain or caporegime in this family. The second name mentioned by the informant is Joseph Joe Narrows Laratro, who was a member of Joe Brown's Queens-based crew. Joe Laratro was a close friend of the Lucchese brothers, and Joe Brown's right-hand man. It is interesting to note that the informant listed Joseph Laratro as a captain, as some sources state that Laratro served as the acting captain or face of Joseph Lucchese's crew, and some sources even state that Joe Brown and Joe Narrows became co-captains at one point. Joe Brown and Joe Narrows would dominate gambling activity in a large area of Queens from their base in Corona. As one FBI file states, NYT5 advised on April 10, 1962 that, redacted information, he stated that through the years he had heard many rumours concerning these two individuals and their associates, but he possesses no first-hand knowledge as to their activities. He stated that until approximately 5 years ago, there was no recognised gambling organisation in the Corona Astoria section of Queens, and there appeared to be no territorial allocation to any group to which to answer. He stated that if there was any one group which approached the status of a gambling combine, it would have been the group which included Joe Lucchese and Joe Laratro. He stated that these two names are very prominent among the gambling element in Queens, along with that of redacted name, also known as redacted name, but that of all of them, the subject is the dominant figure. Another informant would also state, NYT7 advised on August 8, 1962 that, redacted information, the subject, redacted name, and Joe Laratro. Informant described the subject, who was known to him as Joe Brown, as being the brother of Thomas Lucchese, thus deriving some of his power. Redacted name advised SA redacted name and redacted name on August 10, 1962 that, redacted name, with Joseph Lucchese, Joseph Laratro, redacted information, and redacted name, knows that they are all involved in gambling. He said he had heard rumours that Joe Lucchese is the boss in this area in regard to gambling. When US Attorney General Robert Kennedy was waging his war against organised crime, his focus landed on the Lucchese crime family in February 1964. He called nearly 30 members of the Lucchese crime family to testify. The first 23 mobsters from that family all took the Fifth Amendment. On the final day, Tommy Lucchese was called to testify, along with his brother Joseph. As one newspaper reported, Attorney General Kennedy conferred here with US Attorney Morgenthau yesterday as a special grand jury prepared to bring to a climax today a week of inquiry into the Thomas Three Finger Brown Lucchese family of Cosa Nostra. Lucchese and 5 remaining top figures in his group are scheduled to answer subpoenas today. Lucchese lives at 74 Royat Street, Lido Beach, Long Island. Due in with him today are his brother, Joseph, called Joe Brown, of 144 34 South Drive, Malba, Long Island. James Jimmy Doyle Plumeri, of 400 East 59th Street. Vincent Rayo, erstwhile Appalachian Delegate, of 192 Dunwoody Street, Yonkers. Joseph Joe Palisades Rosato, of 3431 81st Street, Jackson Heights, Queens, and Ademo Papadillo of 121 Eva Drive, Lido Beach. Rayo holds the rank of counsellor in the family. Plumeri, Joseph Lucchese and Rosato are captains. Thomas Lucchese's interests include 2 dress manufacturing concerns. Plumeri and Papadillo also have garment district connections. Joseph Lucchese reportedly is involved in gambling in Queens. In 1970, Joseph Lucchese was called to appear at a televised Senate hearing. However, Joe Brown, along with Gambino family heavyweight and former consigliere Joseph Staten Island Joe Riccobono, and Bonanno family powerhouse Natalia Vola, all failed to appear. As one newspaper reported, it was a new twist to an old movie. The television cameras were there, and the newspapermen, the state senators, lawyers and cops. 33 men arrived yesterday at the State Rackets Investigation's 8th hearing on mafia-connected crime. But there was one flaw in the script. 4 scheduled witnesses failed to appear. The 4 witnesses were scheduled to appear yesterday before the Joint Legislative Committee on Crime, meeting at 14 Vesey Street. The star would have been Joseph Staten Island Joe Riccobono, allegedly a senior lieutenant in the Gambino family of the Mafia. Riccobono did not appear. Joseph Lucchese, brother of Thomas Three Finger Brown Lucchese, had also been served, along with Natalia Vola, reputedly of the Bonanno family. On a personal level, Joseph Lucchese would marry his wife Nora on September 25, 1932. In 1953, his son, also called Joseph, graduated LaSalle Military Academy. He can be seen on the left-hand side of this photo. Joseph Sr. and Nora had another son named Thomas, presumably named after Joe Brown's own brother. Joseph Lucchese's mob career would continue after the death of his famous brother in 1967. Joe Brown would remain a captain allegedly until the early 1970s, when he stepped down, according to some sources. Throughout the early 1970s, the FBI continued to place him under surveillance, but most files report limited activity from Joe Brown. Joseph Joe Brown Lucchese drops off the radar after 1980, and some sources even state that he had passed away in the 1970s. However, he actually lived until 1994, when he passed away at the age of 84 in Florida on Christmas Day. His obituary reads, Lucchese Joseph, on December 25, 1994 in Florida, formerly of Melbourne, New York, beloved husband of Nora, cherished father of Joseph Jr. and Thomas, adored grandfather of Thomas Jr., Greg, Joseph III, Mark, and Andrea. In the comments below, let me know your thoughts on Joseph Joe Brown Lucchese. I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching.